Now to that exclusive Bloomberg poll on Ben Bernanke that we mentioned in the headlines. Investors overwhelmingly agree the Fed chair should get another term. That is, when his current one ends in January. Bernanke has been criticized by members of Congress who say the Fed overstepped its authority by rescuing failing banks. But the majority of investors support the job he's done.
All this unconventional easing, all these purchases of agency debt and mortgage-backed securities and treasuries, I think Bernanke, given his innovations, given his actions, deserves to be reappointed.
Investors also ranked Bernanke higher than Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner, and he got better marks than his counterparts at other major central banks. Meanwhile, 61% of those surveyed in Bloomberg's poll say the global economy is stable or improving, and investors say that in the next 2 years, recession a bigger threat to the U.S. economy than rising prices. Another question we asked in the poll, which markets pose the greatest downside risk for investors? Europe and the U.S. combined account for 64% of the responses. And what about the best place for opportunities? Will China and India come out on top? Note our quarterly Bloomberg Global Poll surveys investors and analysts on 6 continents. Meanwhile, Bernanke will be questioned by Congress for a second day over what the Fed has done to ease the economic crisis. Yesterday, Bernanke insisted the Fed's monetary policies are purely economic decisions and are never based in politics.
On monetary policy, we do not take political considerations into account. We look only at the economy. You have the transcripts 5 years later. You won't see any discussion of politics. And I assure you that we make our decisions based on the long-run health of the economy.
Bernanke told the House Financial Services Committee the Fed helped avert a credit collapse. He also defended the Fed's role in deciding which banks were too big to fail. He admitted the whole concept is one that does need to be resolved.
Too big to fail is an enormous problem. If we don't do anything else, we need to solve that problem. This is a critical element in solving it because it would mean that creditors would take losses.
Congress is preparing the largest overhaul of financial regulations in generations. One of the proposals would allow the Government Accounting Office to audit the Fed's monetary policy. And later this morning, Bernanke will be questioned by a Senate committee. You can catch it here on Bloomberg Television starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.